एंड वी आर लाइव वन मोर टाइम. हम बहुत कोशिश करते हैं हर मंडे मिलने के लिए और हर मंडे कुछ ना कुछ डिस्कस करने के लिए, पर नहीं हो पाता है. वी लिव वेरी वेरी बिजी लाइव्स. हाय फ्रेंड्स.
Yes. Hi.
इशिता. हाय राहुल. राहुल तेरी आवाज़ चली गई.
I'll have to speak straight into the laptop then.
हाय नहीं, अब आ गई वापस. इट
अभी
हैज़ कम बैक.
सुनाई दे रहा है? So should
बिल्कुल
I speak
सुनाई
like
दे.
this?
No, it is,
Yes.
I can hear you very well. Ishita, you're still in Calcutta, na?
Yes, I am still in Calcutta.
Why?
I
Why
think
you
I'll
soon?
see this.
Why? When are you coming back? Going back to Bombay?
Never.
The thing is that I've gotten very comfortable.
In being in
And
Cal?
yeah. And
Oh,
also like watching like I Want to Talk, like a Bengali, almost a Bengali film.
yes.
So I was like, I'm right
I
there.
need your insights about I Want to Talk quite desperately. I'm really desperate to talk to you about that film. लेकिन उसके पहले आओ. Welcome back to this live stream, everybody who's watching. My name is Sucharita, this is Rahul Desai and Ishita Sengupta, and we watched a bunch of things over the last 2 weeks, and we're going to be talking about a little bit about each of them, because अगर मैं अंदर से on a personal level नहीं निकालूं चीज़ें तो मेरा दिमाग पड़ जाता है. So as you can see on this wallpaper, we've got All We Imagine as Light, which I think I have gone a little overboard talking about. Then we've got Freedom at Midnight, and then we've got I Want to Talk. Let's begin with All We Imagine is Light. Rahul, when did you watch the film?
So I watched it at Mami. It was the opening film,
Yeah.
and I watched it at Regal, and then I watched it again the next day in Juhu,
Yeah.
like at the another screening, and I just I just had to watch it again because there was so much like also because it's the opening film, there's a lot of noise around it, so not everything goes into it, and apparently the projection wasn't that great at Regal. That's what even Payal was worried about when she was there. So
Yeah.
I wanted to watch it again to see how it hits the second time, and it hit even better, just like less than 24 hours later. And and then of course I technically watched it for the third time to review it last week.
Oh, you watched it one more time? You went to the theater or you watched at home?
No, no, like a link that we
A
were given
screener.
because
Huh.
yeah, twice though I watched it in theaters. So, and I think it's the right time to talk because Ishita is never coming back to Bombay. So we will talk about Bombay now for the next 20 minutes and your feelings about this film.
Ishita ko I will meet now straight in Sundance, and she's going to
Yeah.
from Calcutta come to
Yeah,
America
yeah.
only, Sida. Ishita, when did you watch it also at Mami?
Yes, I watched it, man. I didn't go for the opening film though. I watched it the next day in Juhu when Rahul watched it with me, and I think it was also like one of those films where the hype is so much, and yet the film just like outlives the hype in a way. So yeah, and then I watched it once in the screener because I had to review it. And tomorrow I'm going again.
You're going again?
Yes.
That's how much you liked it, huh? Three
Yeah.
times you're going to watch.
Yes. How many times have you watched it now?
3 times. I watched it at Cannes, obviously at the premiere, and then I told the story to Payal also, but I can't stop telling the story because this is how desperate I was to be in that room at the premiere night. Movie के producer का नाम है Zico. तो मुझे प्रेस शो की टिकट्स तो मिल गई थी कैन में बिकॉज इट वाज वन ऑफ द लास्ट competition films, like towards the end of the festival it was screening, so I got easily press tickets and all that, but I was so desperate to be in the room when the film premieres. In competition, I ate his brain. I chewed his brain. Like, I have to be there. You have to get me a ticket, please, 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 please. And he's so nice. He eventually got me a ticket, so I got to be in the room where the whole cast and crew were there for the first time. And in fact, the cast had not even seen the film before that. That was the first time they were also watching. Kani and Divya and all these people. So I watched it at Cannes, completely I was like, what? Like something has shifted. Sometimes you watch films on a big screen and you realize that something in the zeitgeist has shifted in these last 2.5 hours. And then I watched it. Say? You said something. Achha, sorry, I thought you said something. And then I watched it again, Abhi, in Bombay on a screener because I was going to interview everyone again. So then I revisited it. So first I watched it in May, and then I watched it again in October, twice, because I was doing 2 interviews. but I watched it twice because मेरे को मन कर रहा था दो बार देखने के लिए. It is such an achievement. Because like, I don't know, Rahul, tu bol. You start.
Yeah, so we watched it 9 times between us, and we still don't have words for it. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
that kind of film. I was thinking while watching it the second time, like when it was really hitting me, when the details were really sort of jumping out at me when I was watching it at Juhu, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I also was thinking while watching the film that normally we tend to love a film that either moves us or blows our mind away. And this was a
Yeah.
very different kind of love for a film, right? Because I think we were getting consumed by it a little, and it was sort of entering me, and I didn't even realize it. I wasn't getting like moved or blown away at any point, but I was just getting really yeah, I just felt like very much a part of the experience. So it just also it helps that I think a lot of us have had some Bombay experience,
Oh man.
and we know the city very differently. I think all of us have very personal different experiences of the city, and the way that Payal captures it through the film, and the fact that she chose a particular very specific subsection of say two Malayali nurses, I found very fascinating because it felt like the kind of Bombay that is at ground level that we don't see when we are on in our apartments on the floors, on the top floors, and I thought it was beautifully shot and captured that never really went to that height, right? Like it just felt like it was seeing the kind of Bombay that we all think we know about because we all commute quite a bit in Bombay. We've lived, we struggled in our own ways, but yeah, it sort of seeped into me, that film, and I can't stop thinking about it even 3 times later.
Ishita?
Yeah, same. Like I think when I was writing about it, I think I kind of appreciated the film again because it took me a little while to like the film. I
Yeah.
finished it today, which is a little late. But then that's what also Rahul says. And the funny part is that when I was writing, I felt like it was not just it's a great Bombay film. It's also a great city film.
Yes.
Like you put it in any city, a big city, and it works. You know why people come here and why people stay, even though it takes so much out of you.
Yeah.
Like when I don't like Rahul, you remember when we watched Mahanagar together, that Satyajit Ray's film, and it kept reminding me of Mahanagar so much
Yes.
because the city allowed the woman to go out, but it also, that's why people come. There is a generosity that big cities give you, and then it also takes so much out of you. So I felt like as any city film, it's a fascinating film,
Yeah.
like for people who come. Yeah.
Because every time you see Bombay, it's always the spirit of Bombay, and Mumbai accepts everyone with open arms, and it's nice that it does, but it's also extremely difficult to a city to make it. It's got the highest rents across the country of all the cities, and then if you're an entertainment professional, then it is the only option you have for the most part. So you don't really have the option to be like, I'm going to go stay somewhere else. You have to be in Bombay for the most part if you really want to get ahead in your career in the entertainment field and other fields as well. And also, I like that she doesn't romanticize the difficulty of going on trains, and or like how there's no, the city is not romanticized. The city is wonderful and a villain simultaneously, because it is that, right? A city is never one thing. It is 500 different things based on different people's experiences of it. When I first moved to Bombay, I was very young. I was 21 years old, and for me it was like entering the big bad world, and it was stars in my eyes. How like you get off the bus with like one suitcase in your hand, say, where can I go find a movie to watch, like that. Like I was naive and young and silly, but like you soon realize how relentless the monsoon is, how difficult it is to get around, how much money you have to spend to eat, to how difficult it is to make friends, how transactional relationships can be in this city, which is another reason why the film just entered my skin, because you finally, like, you get to see these relationships between these women, which are, so much of it is unspoken. Like, it's not like, okay, I will pay your rent, baby, I got you, don't worry about it, you're my little sister. Like, they don't, like, she just says, "Can you pay my rent?" And she gives her a look, and that's it. That's the end of that conversation. It never comes up again in like a heated argument later on. You don't even pay your rent on time. I have to pay your rent. Like she doesn't underline anything. Nothing is underlined. It's all very like that's why it's sort of like she said this also in my interview. She's like, I really like when people find their own meaning in between gaps, like especially when she's using voiceovers and the voice you hear is not aligning with the visual you're watching. So there's a gap, but that juxtaposition allows your brain to expand and use your own imagination to fill that gap in the middle. How many filmmakers are allowing the audience to, you know, have a relationship with their film without bombarding them with like what they're trying to say? It's
Yeah.
a film about a non-welcoming city, but it's a very welcoming film.
Yeah. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I felt like it was a very lyrical sort of indictment of Bombay. The first thing I saw in the film was like, I totally understand the relationship the filmmaker must be having with the city, going
Yes.
and leaving and coming back, leaving and coming back. She mentioned it also a couple of times. And in a way she's saying, everyone is a migrant, even those who live there. And it also, like, what moved me really was the second part of the film, which a lot of people are sort of on the fence about from whatever I've seen in the discourse so far, like the second half that happens in the village,
Yeah.
in Ratnagiri, on the coastal
Yeah.
village. I felt like that was just one of the best pieces of storytelling I've seen this year, because it's not just because of the magic realism, or the fact it felt like Bombay was haunting that entire hour in that village.
Yeah.
There were signs, there were ghosts of Bombay throughout that entire sequence. Even the beautiful husband sequence that we can't get over. Like, like my sort of, I got goosebumps when I realized that she's imagining her husband there, and even that came from that old lady at the beginning of the film who was talking about how she hallucinates. The patient talks about how she hallucinates when she saw her husband, and so a lot of those sequences which are so lovely in the second half, even with the younger woman, even with Divya Prabha's character. I felt a lot of it stemmed from what already happened in Bombay. It's like a way of saying that Bombay will never leave you, even if you try to leave it. It's going to drag you back in one way or the other. And I think towards the end, I know it's sort of a hopeful last shot, but it's also a very melancholic, sort of sad last shot for me, because
Yeah.
I thought that was, it almost felt like all of them had died and gone to heaven, and that's the
Yeah.
only way they could be free from the pressures of having to survive and be the spirit of Bombay. All those faceless voices that we hear about in the film, I thought the city was trying so hard to invisibilize them also, and it just towards the end it happened, and I thought it's a very difficult, unfilmable thing to convey, and I think Payal did that in a way that, again, we all personalize it in our own ways. It seeps into our system, and I love that all of us sort of, even though we've taken different details from the film, it's all meant the same thing to us.
Ishita, where do you stand in the second half of the film, moving towards Ratnagiri?
It's actually very interesting what Rahul said. That old woman thing, yeah, it actually ties up. What I thought was that it was like a wish fulfillment. All of them kind of,
Yeah.
like, whatever they wanted happened in Ratnagiri.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
found the husband, she found closure basically, because
Yeah.
earlier in the bus she was telling Chaya Kadam's character, "Ki, I just want to talk to him, and ask him, why aren't you coming?" So I think that wish fulfillment happened, and also the fact that when we see them in Bombay, the colors are so much blue. For
Yeah.
me, it felt like the blueness was almost leaking from their saris. You feel like the city can only see them as part of their service, because they are nurses. They can only be seen, as hands, as pair of hands, because that's what they do. But in Ratnagiri, the colors are like more red, like they're more rich. It's colors of earth. So I felt that, I mean, it's, in a way, I mean, I felt like you can only belong to Bombay in retrospect. You can only belong when you leave it. because the moment they came to Ratnagiri is when they finally got rid. And that's an opposite reading of Rahul actually when he's saying ghost. I felt like that's when they kind of got rid of Bombay. The blueness moved, but they also kind of realized that, like, you can only, like really, really belong when you no longer long for it. That's when their longing to belong ended. So yeah, I read it like that, the last
बहुत
bit.
बहुत हफ्तों से तुम कलकत्ता में हो ना, इसलिए तुम्हारी ये वाली
Yes.
इमोशन ज्यादा बाहर आ रहे हैं. That you really, what did you say? Beautiful line you said. You belong to Bombay once you leave it. What did you say?
Yeah, I felt that you can only belong to Bombay in retrospect, like when you have left Bombay, because I think then the struggle goes.
In the United States, when someone asks me where you're from, I find myself saying Bombay, even though I'm from Delhi.
See,
I'm not from Bombay. I moved to Bombay as a 21-year-old. But I find myself saying Bombay because I feel like I really found myself and my voice and who I am as a person in Bombay. And obviously, because I moved there at a very young age, you don't really know who you are before the age of 20 anyway. But Bombay as a city, just sort of, because it was so hard and difficult to, be a young adult in, but it was also amazing and wonderful and had all these incredible experiences that I can't even, like, when I think about all the crap that I pulled when I was in my 20s. I was like, it's a miracle I made it out. But, the city allows you to do that. And but also in the second half, like when they move to the Konkan, I love that part so much because the title of the film takes on a whole different meaning and light comes in and the colors change because blue really is the color of tarpaulin, of their sarees, of like the blue night sky. When you're arriving into Bombay, the first thing you see is blue of Dharavi everywhere on top, from the top. And specifically the blue garbage bags. One of the more incredible scenes in the film is when Parvati, Chaya Kadam's character, is finally at that point. She's like, I have to find these papers, otherwise I'm going to be asked to leave them. I won't have an option. So Prabha goes with her to her shanty where she lives. You can see the rain outside and you can see the trains going पीछे से. The shit that you romanticize about Bombay, that oh क्या बारिश, Bombay के मौसम में दिल लगाओ, प्यार करो please करो. But वो उस shot में Parvati is sitting and going through a blue garbage bag. Those garbage bags all of us have in our homes because they are readily available. And she's looking for her papers in the garbage bag. And that there's nothing to it. There's no emphasis on that shot. But like the most important thing in her life is in a blue garbage bag, which is sort of like, a metaphor for how the city will treat you if it has the opportunity to take from you. If it's a constant state of battle in any big city, not just Bombay. When you're trying to make it in any big city, you always have to push back, and the city pushes back harder, and then you push back again, and then it pushes back harder. So the claustrophobia came across so nicely and beautifully in the first half. Tight frames, like even when she's on the train and everything, it's just incredible. And the second half, like everything just opens up. And like there is this weird but wonderful scene of Prabha going into the woods to like do susu. Now, objectively, why? Why do we need to see that? But it's also like she's so finally like able to, I don't know, just urinate out in the wild. I first when I watched it I was like, this is sort of weird, but then second time I was like, it sort of works. I'm into it. And then she walks up and finds Divya Prabha's character Anu. So I really loved the second half very much. I thought it allowed me to breathe with the film, with the characters, and like just the various stages of life, right? Like Divya's character Anu is at a stage where she's still young and naive and has optimism and still feels like she can do whatever the hell she wants. Prabha is a little bit more held back, twisted up in knots, right? Knowing that there are some things that she can have, like the doctor's love, the doctor who's very much interested in her and pursuing a romantic relationship and is willing to like sacrifice to be with her. But she's not allowing herself to do that because she's older. And then Chaya, who finally then comes back round circle to that same agency again. Like I'm going to find, she reaches the zenith of not being allowed her agency and then comes back to where Anu is again. Like I'm just going to take what I want to take. Anu wants to make kisses where she can, and Chaya is like, I'm just going to take what I can take, and she just leaves. And then she moves to the village and she's like, yeah, this is my alcohol. Aaj hum party karenge. Here's some sharab for you. And then they start dancing and everything. So it's also a circle of Female agency. Every time you watch it, you find something new. Let's see. Vaishnavi Singh watched it yesterday with my two childhood friends. It was such a nice experience since the movie is about friendship. It felt so right to watch it with them. Absolutely right. We do not know if the film is going to be on streaming or whatever anytime soon, and because the film is still doing its award circuit. So please, if you get the opportunity to go to a movie theater near you, and if you're in a city that is not playing All We Imagine, is like, tweet at Payal Kapadia. She's like on the warpath right now on Twitter. She will tweet she'll make it happen. So if you want to watch the movie, and of course, if it is playing in the wrong aspect ratio, tweet at Payal Kapadia.
I think the Google search of aspect ratio probably increased since Payal has been like tweeting. It's great. It's absolutely fantastic.
What is aspect ratio? It's, I mean,
Yeah.
like, Rahul, what do you think, like, this speaks about our relationship with, like, younger filmmakers, and especially in the indie scene, all the attention that this film has gotten? Do you think it's because of its Cannes win, or there's something else to it?
Yeah, I mean, it always helps to have the big festival names behind it. I have a feeling that if it probably hadn't won at Cannes, or if it hadn't gotten the reaction that it did there, maybe not a lot of people here would have been that interested. And for better or worse, that's how the life cycle of an indie film is. Like,
Yeah.
you need that attention from the big festivals, after which, your home country starts to take notice, after which, you start to realize that the hype is real. And I think all of us knew it the moment we watched it. And it's not the kind of film that's designed to hit you immediately either. It stays with you. So yeah, I'm just glad the awards and all are incidental right now. I don't care what it does at the Oscars, doesn't do at the Oscars, whether we messed up the category again or whatnot, because I think those who watch the film have taken away what they wanted to from the film, and it's really one of the best Indian films we've seen in the last 10 or 20 years, and that says a lot. Like, of course, you can't definitively say that because we haven't seen all the Indian films, but at least in my experience, I don't think I've seen such a uh, moving, sort of hopeful and sad film at the same time. Like, again, I took away the sadness from the film, but Ishita took away something else, and everyone's taking away their own language of a big city of Bombay, and I'm just glad that we got to watch it, because you can feel, as you said earlier, that you can feel something shift when you watch a film like this, and you also become a little bit of a different person. Like, I took a good 10 days to write the review, uh, and obviously, because we had the luxury this time, and
Yeah.
and I had the screener, and I had already watched it twice at Mami. I wanted to give it everything, because there's once in maybe years a film like this comes along in India.
Yeah.
You want to do justice to it, and you want to look back later in life and see that, okay, that's the review I wrote about perhaps the best Indian film of that year. So I think all of us gave it, like, we felt like we had to do justice to it. The way you either talked about it or interviewed everyone or wrote about it. Like, I've never taken 10 days to write a review, and I used to just go like an old painter and like do one stroke today and one stroke tomorrow and finally complete it towards the end. And not often you get to do that, and I'm glad that they gave us the luxury to do that. It released in India last, I think. So
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a good moment, and I don't think it should be measured by awards anymore.
I was doing a search for All We Imagine Is Light on my own channel. I have uploaded, like, I think 6 or 7 videos in at different times since May up until now. One walk the talk with Payal Kapadia, one with Kani and Divya, one with Chaya, one review from Cannes, then one interview with Rana, then one interview with all the cast together in Bombay, and then clips of everything. Uday Bhatia, who's another film critic and dear friend, every time he tweets something about the film, I have a clip corresponding with it. So a couple of days ago, he tweeted about the voiceover. I was like, I have a clip. Today, he tweeted about the Ethiopian
music.
nun. I was like, I have a clip. So every single time anybody said something, especially Uday, had said something about the film, I have shared a clip of it. I think I've gone a little insane and a little overboard. I just really want people to watch the film with my eyes, I think, because I feel like, oh my God, what beauty I have found in this film. But at the end of the day, the film is in theaters. If it's not in a theater near you, hopefully it will be soon. and if it comes on a streaming platform, you should watch it. And even if it is pay-per-view, if you have to rent it and watch it. It's fully worth it. Okay, Ji. Anything else you want to add, Ishita, before we move on?
Yeah, I think more or less we kind of summed it up. Also, like the Bombay thing, I mean, it's very funny because we have so many Bombay films, but there are the fleeting moments of this one. Just wipe. They're both like wiping their faces with hankies, and the thing is that in Bombay, humidity is terrible. And I have never seen actors in a Bombay film do that as persistently, because I'm constantly doing it when I'm in the city. So it just felt like the next time when I was watching it, and I'm like, that's such a closed, such a lived-in gaze, because
Yeah.
Kyle has lived in the city. Like little things, even the first shot when Prabha is introduced, she's holding that, and she's holding it like she's on a Ferris wheel. Like if she leaves it, she'll fall.
Yeah.
And these are the little moments. I don't know how they did it, but it's so good.
Every time you see a Bombay film, more often than not, it is and when women are involved in it, more often than not, it is about how the city exploits women and, like Madhur Bhandarkar's vision of it. Like women are not safe and it's a big bad world and everything. And this is the first time where she's like, yeah, big cities are not very welcoming, but look at these women, they're not complaining about the city they're in. Everything that's happening to them is just incidental because it's happening in Bombay. Or you see like men go through the city, like Scam 1992, how men make it big in the city, how capitalism thrives in this city. Or even Tu Hai Mera Sunday, which is a lovely sweet film about Bombay, but like it's about these boys trying to look for, again, very similar, like looking for space in a city that doesn't give you space. So yeah,
But also, I wanted to ask you, like, I found like a very gentle female gaze. I know it's a very overused term, but I honestly felt like this film could have probably made by just a woman, because there's a way she looks at things, even when the way, like, after Prabha and Anu have a spat in a way, the fact that Anu just, kind of strips. She's changing clothes, which kind of, and she immediately
to
turns
make
away
her
because-
uncomfortable, because she knows that it'll make her uncomfortable.
Exactly. There are these little moments. Or, for example, what you said, like Prabha peeing,
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I've seen a woman pee on screen, which is not played for laughs or, it's just that she had to pee.
Yeah.
Women have to pee because we are people.
Women
So
pee.
this thing-
Women pee.
Yeah.
And the first thing we do when we get home from work is take off our bras. That is literally the first thing we do.
Yeah.
And absolutely, the female gaze is what makes this film what it is eventually.
Yeah. I feel like she's so gentle the way she,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gentle and loving and just holding everything together very nicely. Love. Can I just point out one thing though? At Cannes, this, as everybody knows, is an industry-only festival. It is not open to the general public. Only if you're a film critic, journalist, or distributor, or anybody associated with making films, you can attend. And the buzz for this film began from Cannes because so many film critics wrote about it. So please encourage more film criticism, because it's stuff like this that once in a lifetime it happens and you feel really proud of your community. And I'm very proud of everything that journalism also has helped this film really sort of reach different places. Okay, Anas is saying he's very happy to see all of us talk about it. Your reviews are heart-touching and poetic, just like the film. Thank you, Anas. Very kind of you. Arvind is asking why other folks in the industry are not rallying behind the film, including some prominent reviewers. I don't know. I think pretty much all prominent reviewers have rallied behind the film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
I think some of the best writing this year has happened on this film also. So.
I mean, Ayushmann Khurrana rallied behind it. He wrote a Time profile on Payal.
All right.
Right, yeah.
I asked her in my interview, why Ayushmann, like, are you guys friends? Do you have a, like, are you, what's, she's like, I found out when it came out that Ayushmann Khurrana had wrote it. She said, I don't know. It was nice what he said, but she said, I don't know, Ayushmann Khurrana was writing she was very gracious about it, but she had no idea. Can you imagine? Deepak says in the clinic scene with Prabha and her husband, that was the whole moment just Prabha's imagination, or did it really happen? Also, her husband does call her by her name, Prabha, right? Rahul, your interpretation of that scene, because you spoke about it right now.
Um, in the clinic scene, obviously, it's
The last
it's sort of reality merging with imagination. Obviously, I mean, I think again, many interpretations, but whether there was someone actually drowning and there was actually a patient who she saved and who she's nursing. Again, if you notice, she's giving him a sponge bath in the beginning, and it directly ties into that anecdote that Anu is talking about on the bus with her boyfriend earlier
Yes.
in Bombay. Again,
Yes.
that's why Bombay is haunting the film, the second half of the film, and that's why you can see subconsciously Prabha is basically it's that manifestation of what she's experienced in Bombay, the isolation and the longing for her husband is coming out in a way where she's obviously imagining this stranger to be her husband and sort of making it, given that the coastal village is making all their desires come true, it's just an extension of that. But at the same time, it's there is no escaping the Bombay of that moment.
Ishita? Vivek also is talking about this particular scene.
Yeah, I felt what Rahul said. It reminded me of that scene in the hospital. But for me, the whole second or the last act of the film played out like a dream.
Yes.
So I felt like maybe she was imagining it. I mean, for sure she was imagining it. But if the man existed or not, I'm on the fence about. But the thing is that you don't need to
It doesn't
talk about
matter
it. It
actually.
doesn't matter. It ties up. It
Yeah.
adds up eventually.
The whole sort of dreamscape versus what is reality is also director signature. I don't know if you've seen A
Yeah.
Night of Knowing
Or
Nothing.
huh.
I watched it a couple of months ago on Criterion, and it's a signature. Like she does this. She does this throughout that film also. Like you don't know if what because that whole film is in voiceover, and you
Hmm.
don't know how much of it is imagination, how much of it is real, how much of it is in a dream, how much of it is like lucid dreaming. So that is something she does, and she does it very well. Okay, let's go to the next one that we're talking about. That is Freedom at Midnight. Have both of you written about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of you have written about it. I just finished watching it today, so sorry I haven't really had the opportunity to gather my thoughts. I'm going to rely on the two of you heavily. Rahul.
I'll let Ishita start with this one.
Okay, Ishita.
Ah. So, so Freedom at Midnight is the new Nikhil Advani show, which is adapted from the book of the same name. I think it came in 1975. It looks at the Indian freedom movement, and like my initial thoughts were that Nikhil Advani has also made the Mumbai Diaries season, and I feel like he has this way, especially in long form, where he looks at really big cultural moments from a very microscopic view, like you saw terrorist attack from the perspective of doctors. We did not. So I think that really gave a very nice spin to the a very familiar story we have heard. We have heard about Indian independence. We have heard about partition. We have heard about riots and Mountbatten coming in. We have seen all of that, but I think the way he depicted it as almost like a chamber drama of bureaucracy, where like the political leaders were fighting like they were literally like fighting like kids. So I think
Yes.
that was very, very interesting for me.
And I think Siddhant's casting choice becomes very interesting there because he looks young, but he's aging, but he brings that petulance that that I think Nikhil Advani is going for with Nehru's character.
At some point, I think Jinnah calls Nehru Peter Pan, and I laugh
Yes.
so much because it's actually a young actor playing
Yes.
Nehru. So yeah.
Rahul, initial thoughts.
Yeah, very unusual sort of take on the partition. In itself, that's a very brave choice to do, like a sort of a chamber backroom behind the scenes drama of how basically we recognize history in broad strokes.
Yeah.
Most of us have grown up reading history. Partition, of course, a lot of violence, lot of conflict, freedom movement before that, but we almost always associated them in like binary emotions because we got freedom from the British, so very happy. Partition, very sad. But here I found it very interesting that the series uh, was basically saying that there was no happy or sad at that point. Politics were at its peak, and they didn't even get the time to actually savor the fact that they got what they finally wanted to get the British out of the country,
Yeah.
and at the same time they could not even savor that for a bit, and that was the exact reason why it became such a definitive sort of watershed moment in South Asian history. And yeah, it's a very unusual take, and I thought it was. I mean, it's brave because it's not an easy thing to do, especially in this era where most sort of shows like this or movies like this often take the easy way out and indulge in a lot of Congress bashing because it's a
Yeah.
fashionable thing to do right now because BJP is in power. So a lot of the shows and films do that, and I thought it humanized a lot of the leaders here rather than put them on a pedestal or anything. It just showed that they were like everyone else. They were as conflicted. They were making mistakes, but it never sort of condescended on them in a way. And yeah, I did find a problem with how they treated Jinnah in this,
Yeah, me
like
too.
most films tend to.
Me too.
And it sort of reduced him to a bit of a caricature. But I thought he was getting very interesting by the last episode because they started going into flashbacks and then showing that he was actually, a rival right from the beginning. He just didn't believe in Gandhi's ideals. They could have done away with the broad strokes Muslim caricatures that so many of the films that they are supposed to be an antidote to also do. So yeah, that was a false note for me. But again, I think the material also had that problem apparently, the source material. So yeah,
It does. Gurinder Chadha also adapted it,
yeah,
Viceroy's House, I think, and then
yeah,
it was a very debated, heavily debated book. Also, like it's people don't agree or disagree with the angle it takes and humanizes Mountbatten more than the British Empire more than it one should. I read a very interesting and emotional piece by Fatima Bhutto responding to Gurinder Chadda's adaptation of the book. It's very interesting if you get the chance to watch it. Read it. It's very long. She went long on like the issues she had with the film. Jinnah was a complete false note for me, and they made him a very caricature evil cartoon. Like he walks into rooms saying uh, congratulations, like he doesn't feel real. अब मैं लीग को दिखाऊंगा. Too much dialogue bazi happening. On the other hand, like he felt like he's just stood out a little too much, a little too stark from all of this. I like the structuring of the show that everything begins with a little bit of a flashback to contextualize this moment in history, to sort of say that nothing is independent of each other. Everything that's happening right now had its seeds sown at some other time in history, and then let's cut to this now. So I was really hoping that we will get to see where the rift began between the Muslim League and the Indian National Congress, and they touch upon it. Like Jinnah and Sarojini Naidu are friends in one episode towards the end. I think episode 6 or episode 7. They really show them like being friends. But then they're driving in the same car, and he's saying ye protest kyun ho rahe hain sadak pe, and she's saying it's okay, and then whatever. They didn't get in. I felt like it was a bit of a cop out
yeah.
to put everything solely on the shoulders of Jinnah. Having said that, uh, it also doesn't feel like like blatant propaganda, because everyone throughout it's a good political thing, because politics is flawed. And Nikhil Advani said this in I was reading Pratyush's interview at the Hollywood Reporter, and he said that there's a second part to it. So um, it does feel incomplete right now, perhaps. So we'll see where he goes with it. But I like the structuring that he keeps going back to events that happened in 1917, or like 1930s. Something happened, and then cuts back to how the Congress and Muslim League and Mountbatten are deliberating between each other or not, like hiding these. But he does put more of a blame on Mountbatten. Interesting, like very funny scene in the end where Edwina Mountbatten is trying to keep Jinnah and Gandhi from meeting each other at the
Yeah.
Viceroy's house, and she like literally like shoves her body in front of Gandhi to move him away, or Jinnah to move him away in a different direction as she sees Gandhi walk by. So yes, the divide and rule, he's not shied away from it, that the problem arose with the British divide and rule policy, and that sowed the seeds of everything that happened with the country. Also very interesting, Jubilee is a great companion piece, because where part 1 of this series ends, Jubilee begins. And if you want to see more of Siddhant Gupta, you right after finishing Freedom at Midnight, start watching Jubilee, because it ends and Jubilee begins in like a chronological series of events. Ishita, your thoughts on Siddhant Gupta, please.
Really works for me. Right. Incessantly really works. And there's a flashback scene when Nehru is young, and I felt like he's in Jubilee's set because he was wearing that that beret cap and everything.
Yeah.
And his
When he meets
casting
Gandhi for the
really,
first time,
yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I felt like maybe Jubilee was being shot somewhere, so he just like sauntered in. But his casting, in the sense that, um, like, it's kind of strangely humanized Nehru for me, because he has been such a towering personality in our history books, the way we've read about it, and then we have this young man play this character, which in a way, I know, I say this because I liked it. I know I'm justifying it, but it really worked for me. And also, like when you were saying about the propaganda bit and Congress bashing, the fact that even the Nehru's character was shown to be so out of reality, like he was an idealist to a fault. Like everyone was like, he just wanted certain things and he didn't know how to go about it, which I thought was a nice touch to, because it's also like kind of an accusation which Congress kind of deals with still, that they live in their own glass chamber. So I thought it was a nice way of putting it, that it started from there.
Yeah, correct. Especially when you see him becoming friendly with Mountbatten and Edwina, and he's at their palatial home and piano baja rahe hain, khana kha rahe hain, and then Menon comes outside, and then Nehru comes out of the room and he says, "I was in prison for 9 years." So it humanizes him. Like, I will make this happen whichever way it has to happen, and if it means that I have to become friendly with my oppressors, I'm paraphrasing. So be it. So it's I think it's a brave series what Nikhil Advani has done with it and also tried to do with it. There's lines in it like, is this what it boils down to? Cows, which I wrote down in my notes because prescient. But then there's also scenes like, oh, you're talking about partition and Vallabhbhai Patel is having chai and his biscuit breaks in his chai. So I was like,
Shout out to Uday.
shout out to
Uday is
Uday.
really
Acha,
pissed.
he note. Oh,
He's really
he
pissed
did.
about it.
I haven't
Yeah,
read his piece. What did he say?
yeah, I think he's really not happy with. I think there was a line when in his review that 6 writers or 5 writers and partitions, metaphor is a broken biscuit or something like that. It was very funny. So yeah.
But it's true. I was like, this scene doesn't belong here. It belongs in a lesser production, not this. But also talk about feeling prescient. Jinnah also talks about cult of personality and being worried about cult of personality, which is literally where we are right now. All the elections that are being won all over the world are being won by populists. People are not voting for their own welfare anymore. They're pretty much voting for populists, so hoping that we'll see how this goes. But talk to me about Rahul finding prescience in a show like this. It felt. Did you feel it firstly that despite it being set 75 years ago, it very is relevant still?
Yeah, there's always a temptation as a filmmaker, as writers, to sort of, because you're making a show like 70 years later with luxury of hindsight, you want to be over smart about a lot of things, saying that, let's put in our little symbols, allegories, metaphors, a lot of prescient scenes so that people can connect it to today's time. Like, for example, a lot of Jinnah reminded me of a lot of BJP leaders we have today. The way he sort of fashioned him, the way how one note he was in his sort of the way he went about his thoughts and his politics. So it it's I saw it as sort of a response to the allegations that a lot of the current sort of leaders accuse Congress of basically saying that Gandhi was responsible for the partition, Nehru was responsible for the partition. They gave away, they are the reason the partition happened. Everyone died, and so I felt like the show was dealing very specifically with that accusation, saying in fact they might not have wanted it, but they just weren't strong enough to sort of see it through. They may have tried, it just didn't work out. So I felt like there was a lot of idealism with the show, just like Nehru was idealistic. And I'm very keen to see what the second season does with, especially with Jinnah and the sort of relationship he shared with these leaders in the past, because I thought the last episode was doing something interesting. It did feel very incomplete. It felt like it needed to be maybe 8 episodes rather than 7. But yeah, I just there is definitely an element of prescience in this, especially with all the connections we are making right now to the current political scene. And I think it's unfair to sort of label it as blatantly Islamophobic, the way Jinnah is portrayed, or blatantly propaganda. If anything, it's anti-propaganda in many ways because of how it sort of stands on the side of that is the party that is being sort of maligned every day today.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to look between the lines. You can't come from you can't come from a perspective where you just want to either dismiss or accept something. I'm not saying the show is great; it is very flawed, but I think
Yeah.
it's a better show about the freedom movement, about partition, about the politics that happened than most may have tried to be. And I think the fact that I'm looking forward to the next season also says that
Says something.
there's something in it.
Yeah. Ishita, your thoughts on the casting? I know we've spoken about Siddhant Gupta, and I, jokes aside, think he's a phenomenal actor. It's unfortunate that we didn't really see anything of him since Jubilee came out, and he was even like sort of missing from social media, not really updating anything. I assume he was preparing for this show.
Yeah.
But about the rest, like Chirag Vora, can we take a moment here to talk about Chirag Vora and how phenomenal he is as Gandhi? Ishita.
He's really good. He's really so good. And I think he had his breakout moment in Scam,
Yes.
and then you see him there. And I think when we were like Rahul and I were watching Scam, I think there was this fleeting it was like a joke that I almost kind of could look like Gandhi. So it was like very funny. And there are I think the physicality of it he really imbibes so well. Like when he's walking, he's walking so fast, and these are the things you have read as anecdotal stuff about Gandhi. And then when you see it, so I think he was very good. Also, I don't want to get the names wrong, so I will just Google. And
Tell
I
me,
will
tell me. I
you
have
the
the cast list open in front of me. Who?
Oh yeah, so the Vallabhbhai Patel, I know the actor's name.
Rajendra Chawla.
Yes, Rajendra Chawla is so good. He is so good, and he has been acting for years. We have seen him in television serials. He's such a familiar actor
Yeah.
in a way, and I felt like and he's not even Gujarati. I don't know how he was speaking Gujarati so well.
He's an actor. Like that's acting, like you occupy every single pixel in every single frame that you in and you make it your own. That's an actor.
So good. He's really good.
Chirag Vora is incredible, and you talk about physical transformation of all the major actors, abs banaya ye wo. Now talk about physical transformation of this actor as well, right? He lost a ton of weight to play this part. He disappears
Yeah.
in the role. I couldn't couldn't recognize him in many parts, and because he's also playing Gandhi through many years. He's a young Gandhi also, and he's a toothless Gandhi also. I really want to know what those dentures are, what that special effect is, the physical effect of making somebody look toothless. When he goes to meet Mountbatten and Edwina, maybe there's a metaphor here also that he's toothless when he says to Mountbatten that give Jinnah what he wants and whatever. But you can see his gums like that. It's an incredible performance. We walk a saying Sucharita saying he's an actor. Should be a gift. I want to read Unnay's piece about that chai wala biscuit. Also, I want to know when the term victim card was coined, because Jinnah says it at one point and I was like, that just feels wrong. Like it doesn't feel like
Can't be.
Jinnah would say.
1947 import.
Yeah, like Jinnah wouldn't say play the victim card. I don't know. When was it coined? I really want to know when it became popular.
But it's very campy that way, I felt.
Yeah, Jinnah saying things like break his spirit. अब हमें कोई नहीं रोक सकता. बस you're just missing the laughter. उसके अलावा सब कुछ करवा लिया आरिफ ज़कारिया से, which I felt was like, I was very not happy with that. But then again, I think Sony Live has a precedence of putting together good shows, very good series. So if you want to understand better what we're talking about, go watch Freedom at Midnight by Nikhil Advani. It is on Sony Live. Rahul, speaking of series, your boyfriend, Tairaj Bhasin's Ye Kaali Kaali Aankhein, season 2. Look at him.
Great segue.
I know. I was just going to say, before we actually go into Tairaj Bhasin's performance again, just before we end Freedom at Midnight ka discussion, I want to say I'm not about the Siddhant Gupta train yet. 2 shows, 2 misses for me. And but yeah, I see where, I see why he's so striking on screen. I just thought it was a sort of performance that fit into a campy show. Like I was telling Ishita, it feels like a Ridley Scott movie. It doesn't matter what the actor is doing. what tone he's talking in. It's just it's all vibes at
Yes,
times.
it's all
And I
vibes.
thought,
Like
I thought
Napoleon.
Siddhant, yeah, like do whatever the hell you want to, speak in whatever language you want to, it's fine. But the thing is, I don't think all of it was deliberate. And when put opposite actors like Chirag Bora and Rajendra Dev, I think that's when you realize that he's not ready for a role like this yet. For me, he just wasn't, because Chirag Bora was so phenomenal as Gandhi, and it's just, I'm not saying authenticity. I don't care about how Gandhi looked or behaved or acted. It just felt like Chirag Bora was playing a historical character, and making it his own. And the fact that we say we can't see the actor within the character anymore says something. And I'm a big fan of how he goes about his craft, and he took so many years to break out. And you can see the miles on him when he
Yes.
acts. You
Yes.
can't see the miles on Siddhant yet, which is not to say he can't get it. He will at some point. He's done two partition shows already.
Yes.
I just would like to see him in a
But
sort of modern.
don't you think like for Jawahar's role specifically in this series, not for Nehru playing Jawaharlal Nehru as a historical figure, but in this series, I think what I felt was that they were going for this. They wanted him to feel immature. I felt like they wanted him to feel like a little green, a little wet. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he's followed someone, like he's had a mentor, but he's reached a point where he has to break away from his mentor. And that worked for him in Jubilee also, because there was a naivete to his character in Jubilee, and he did that well. Ishita, I know you were bursting with emotion right now. Speak your truth.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I was about to say. That
I know.
you see people like Gandhi is constantly infantilizing him कि मैं जो बोलूँगा जवाहर करेगा. Why? Because he sees Rahul. I think Rahul is like, no. I think
Okay.
it's like a young
No,
man
no, I
trapped
agree. I'm just
in an
saying
old
that,
man's
like,
body. Also, at some point, he
sure.
started talking like Ritik. That was great.
Yeah. He was Ritik coded throughout, and
Yeah,
I thought
it
that
was
was pretty
damn
cool.
funny.
I thought it
What?
was pretty cool sometimes. Yeah, he
Just
had that
close your
very,
eyes and listen to him speak English. It's like it's Ritik. It's damn funny.
Yeah.
when he's aping the Victorian hangover, like it's very Ritik, like almost Ritik in Doom 2 at some point. So I'm like, but
Wow.
it's an interesting performance. And the thing is, the reason it actually may have worked here is obviously because of the show, because of how campy it is, because of what Ishita just mentioned. But then again, when you like an actor, you'll convince yourself that his performance is working, which is what I'm going to do with Tairaj
No,
Basin
yes. Good
in
segue. Good
Ye Kali
segue.
Kali, Ye Kali Kali. And I don't
So,
need to convince anyone there. Like,
no,
he's
no.
just working.
Yeah, I haven't watched Kali Kali Aankhein at all, season 1 or season 2, so I will not contribute to this discussion. But Rahul, I will hand it over to you now. Ishita, you've seen, no?
Yes, but
Okay.
let's hand it over to Rahul. Rahul, start.
Rahul, yes, take it away.
So Kali Kali Aake, the season 2 of Kali Kali Aake is, first of all, I was waiting for it for a very long time because I'm like, it's been a while. Netflix have like one, they don't have a lot of say franchise shows yet, and I thought I found it very interesting that they chose to make a second season on this. But I thought season 2 was as good as it gets in terms of making a follow up to such a pulpy pulp fiction show like Kali Kali, because it's not an easy show to like, in the sense that it challenges all our notions of masculinity. It is so Shah Rukh Khan coded. It has a lot of hat tips to Bollywood, but at the same time, it's judging us for sort of reading into it that like that. And I thought, I think Tairaj Basin's performance is also of a very unlikable character, even though he's sort of playing a victim in this show.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting that season 2 actually reverses the roles and gives it to it sort of it becomes about a woman and not about his character. And I found it. I thought that was a very great step to take as writers and as creators, because it really made the show more interesting, and it also challenged what we thought we saw in season 1. Like, I know Ishita and me have discussed season 1 quite a bit, and it's just it's not it's not an easy performance at all, because we never see Tairaj Basin smile throughout the 2 seasons, and he's always whining, he's always scared, he's always fearful, he's always bitching about something or the other. Even his voiceover is really sarcastic. But yeah, what they did in season 2 is the sort of the gender subversion that they did in season 2 actually had us questioning our notions of what we think toxic love is and what we think toxic masculinity is. And to have such a pulpy, entertaining show do that, I think is quite an achievement. I don't think people have realized how good this show is. Maybe down the years they might, but yeah, I'm glad people are actually watching it now, because season one was divisive. I remember not a lot of people liked it, and even Tahira hasn't had a lot in between season one and season two.
True.
Just like Siddhant. And I think because it's taken so long to make this season as well. Yeah, but also props to Achal Singh, which Ishita will talk about now, because I think she is very close to that character.
Hit me, Miss
No,
Sengupta.
it's basically the in the first season you think that this woman is crazy and obsessive, and then I was like, yeah, okay, maybe. And then the second season humanizes her, and then I'm like, I like this crazy. I want to be this crazy. I will grow up to be this crazy. And Rahul is like, this is really worrying. This is exactly what I was worried about.
Yeah, it
But
makes her aspirational in the second season. So
yeah,
I'm like,
because
this is how they make men aspirational. This is how they make anti-heroes in the 90s. Although Shah Rukh Khan characters in Dar, Bazikar, Anjam, a lot of men grew up sort of idolizing those characters, saying, that is true love if you're
Yeah.
willing to go so far. And I think they do the same thing with the woman here, and now we are confused.
no, and also I love that, in the first season, the whole the Shahrukh coded thing, you don't know which Shahrukh he is, if he's the anti-hero Shahrukh or the lover boy Shahrukh. And then in second season, this the girl basically takes a gun, and I'm like, yeah, this is Shahrukh, and this is Shahrukh in his action era. And I really like what they did in the second season also.
I have nothing to add to this conversation.
You should watch
I've
it. You
not
really
watched
like it.
it at all. It just
You will actually enjoy it.
2 years
Yeah,
ago I
yeah.
didn't watch it. This time also I haven't gotten around to watching it. But what I'm realizing right now that all the four things we're talking about, and we're going to move on to I want to talk. All these four things, I don't know how much it is in Kaali Kaali Aankhein, rely heavily on voiceover in different ways. All We Imagine, we already spoke about the voiceover in All We Imagine. Freedom at Midnight, I thought did it very cleverly because it was through a radio announcer.
Yes.
The easy, lazy thing to do would have just been have a disembodied fourth wall breaking Amitabh Bachchan in Lagan style voiceover, sort of narrating अब अंग्रेजों के हुकूमत के तले ऐसे हो गया था वैसे हो गया था. But I thought it was very clever that it's a quick, easy, simple solution, but it's a solution that works. Having a radio announcer, because it also ties into, the radio was the only way people were getting their news, and the news that the British have announced that they are going to leave India and in 1947 was also on the radio, and people are sitting around and listening to it. And it's a great exposition tool to tie everything together. Worked very well for me. I don't know how it does in Kaali Kaali, but in I Want to Talk, the voiceover did not work for me at all. I thought it was just not okay. Ishita, let's start with you, Bengali representative on this panel.
It worked for me, but it worked for me on a broader level. I feel like it worked for me as a detail of Abhishek Bachchan's performance.
Okay.
I felt like generally because he has such a distinctive voice, the way he talks, it's too familiar. So I felt like when he was talking to us, like the film opens with his voiceover, right, and he's talking, and there are moments when he kind of stresses his vowels. That is not how Abhishek talks, at least speaks in English.
Yeah.
And I felt that was so interesting because later when he is this marketing guru talking to his the clients, and he just speaks like Abhishek Bachchan, then the flamboyance kicks in. So I thought that was a nice, like, an Indian man who's gone abroad, when he's talking to us, his English is a little broken, and that I felt the voiceover achieved. And when he's talking to the other counterparts,
He's putting on
then
a show.
Yes, like a Don Draper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very Don Draper coded in that one scene where he's pitching pizza commercials to a pizza client. But larger thoughts on the film, Ishita.
So I felt it was a very difficult film to watch. And even though it kind of takes all the embellishments away from a survivor story, when you hear about the premise of a man who has survived cancer, you expect the film to take familiar beatings, like how he will probably go and then he'll be in the hospital and his family will come together. And Shruti Sarkar just completely goes past that. Like in the fact that the family comes in one scene, and that too for almost like a joke, when the daughter fight, and they vanish after that. The brother comes for one scene and he's not there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and also I felt like it's a very unlike Shujit Sarkar film, which also makes it a very Shujit Sarkar film, because across his career, I don't think, at least I haven't been able to, like watch a film and say, okay, this is Shujit Sarkar, because he's so versatile. Like his not two films
Completely
of his,
unpredictable. Yeah.
very unpredictable. So I felt like this was such a worthy follow up to that, in a way, because you
So
don't know who it could be, in a way.
Sardar Udham came or Gulabo Sitawa was the last one?
I think Sardar Udham.
Rahul, can you try and say Shujit Sarkar the way Ishita does?
Yeah, I was just actually noticing that I can't. I can't. In
Say,
my
say.
head, I was trying to say Shujit Sarkar.
Like,
It's
nah,
not
it's
Sarkar.
Sarkar. What?
Sarkar.
His
I
ancestors
apologize
in,
to all the Bengali people this might reach. I apologize to Shujit Sarkar profusely, personally. Sorry, I don't mean to butcher your name. I just find Ishita's way of saying your name to be just so sweet. It's so lovely. Rahul, the film really, really moved you, huh?
Yeah, it really moved me. I was, yeah, like I was really choked up. Probably most of the film after he started falling sick, and once we realized that he's never going to get out of it, and as Ishita mentioned, the embellishments are gone of a survivor drama or a sort of a terminal illness drama almost. There's no melodrama, there's no family. I love the fact that it's the rare film that tells you that. Sort of sickness is very lonely.
Yeah.
There's not going to be some magical reparation of relationships with your daughter just because you're sick. He hides the extent, the magnitude of his illness from his daughter, from his friends. He hates asking for help. He does it all on his own. I thought it's really brave to make a film like that, because I feel like people, I mean, if we've seen people suffer and people who've suffered also, the way even maybe even half similar to what Abhishek is going through in this film, uh, that's the one thing it does. It goes against like this very distinct Indian culture of wanting sympathy, of wanting care, of wanting help, and a constant company of people around you. We aren't trained as a culture to be like, okay, I'm going to deal with it, stay away from me. I'll be self-sufficient and I don't want to worry you. There are very few people like that, and to make a film on a character like that, especially because he's an advertising guy, so he's advertising, though he's sort of technically lying for a living. The fact that he finds his own truth while being silent throughout his entire ordeal. I was very moved by it. Like, just to see Abhishek Bachchan transform physically without any drama, and the only sort of wry moments came between him and his doctor. Shout out to Jayant Kriplani, terrific performance. I thought it was one of the better cameos this year. And Abhishek Bachchan, definitely my favorite performance of his in his 25 years of whatever I've seen of him. There have been spurts when Mani Ratnam has been able to get out performances out of him,
Yeah.
but I don't think anyone has uh, the way Shujit Sarkar has for this particular character, because it's just, as I said, it's a very anti-Indian character in a way, and it's very difficult thing to do. And the father-daughter relationship also I found really moving, because it's just it felt like we were watching his marriage in a way, as strange as it sounds, why it broke down and why we never see the wife and the mother who's probably turning the daughter against the father. And there's not a lot, even though there's a marathon in the end, there's not a lot of milking of that moment. It's just
Yeah.
about doing it for the sake of it. And when those supporting characters start sort of passing away on the side, that's what broke me. I was like, just to see his face, recognize the irony of the situation, that I was dying throughout, I still am, but these are the ones who sort of helped me survive, but they're all going because I was so sort of closed down trying to
Yeah.
protect them from my condition, and I just didn't notice they were suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very moving. Shujit has a way of doing it. He's done it with all his October is my favorite film of his. I think he did it with Sardar Udham, which is impossible to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a really personal film for me, so I don't care what people think about this film.
No, I mean, it's not no one's confronting you for your love towards the film, yaar. Is somebody?
Yeah, no, it's there have been, but yeah.
Arey chhodna. It's such a unique film where not the victim, the patient is going through survivor's
Yeah.
guilt. The person who is sick also has survivor's guilt. I really like that there is. I was sort of dreading while I was watching because you see him hide his condition from his daughter right from day one, and he's not doing it for any higher reason of like sparing a child's emotion. He just doesn't know how to have this
Yeah.
conversation with her because he's never had to talk about anything serious outside of picking up and dropping. And he's very proud of his fatherly skills that I pick her up on time, I take her out, we spend a lot of time together until it really changes. And then at no point the film gives into the appeal of giving a teenager a lecture about they don't know about the world yet and what the world is about to teach them. And in fact, when the daughter grows up, and it's a relationship of equals because she's like, I know I'm not allowed to drive, so you have to take me to my mom's house to pick up my shoes. And then she's like, I didn't fucking ask for this to be a shuttlecock between two homes. You've done this, and he takes a step back. So. I like that there is no talking down at the actor, and anytime he has an epiphany about his bad behavior, it is because of a conversation he's had with his daughter. When she's like, you don't know that my favorite thing to do is to sit by the lake, and she's a little child, and then you see them later on sitting by the lake. I was sort of annoyed a little bit that Ayala Bamro, the actor who plays the grown-up Rhea, loses the American accent completely, which would have been okay, whatever, you don't have an American accent, but the child who plays the role has a very pronounced, a very strong American, like she sounds like an American person. And then when she's a teenager, she doesn't. The accent should have been stronger, if anything. So it was a little bit like, but theek hai, whatever, doesn't matter. How amazing it is to see Johnny Lever in a dramatic role. He's
Finally.
still the comic relief only very much. He still comes in and does the punch up, but I said this in my review as well, that he gets the best line of the movie. You either die or you don't die. What is almost died? That's nothing. I could have died. That means nothing. You either die or you don't die. बताओ जॉनी लीवर के बारे में thoughts बताओ राहुल.
No, I was always waiting for Johnny Depp's dramatic performance. That's the problem with most directors in this country. They pigeonhole even actors according to, say, their reputation. And Johnny Depp is a terrific actor. And comedians make for the best dramatic and tragic actors. We've seen that over the decades with Hollywood. So there's no reason. Like when I saw him on screen as a normal character, I thought it felt so natural it didn't even stand out to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, he looks like just another handyman, sort of very big-hearted guy who says that I'm going to take you from the hospital, I'm going to bring you back, and Abhishek's relationship with him, saying and not really telling him at the same time. It all added to it, and terrific cast all around. I'd have to say, both the daughter when she was younger, when she was older. I thought it all flew very seamlessly. It sort of it informed the protagonist sort of journey, and I love the fact that Abhishek always looked a little uncomfortable that the camera was on him the sicker he got. And whenever, sometimes you could tell that he was searching for a condition almost, when he said that the whole jaw reconstruction has to happen and all. I was like, he's fine, why is he asking for more? Even his doctor is like, do you really need it? And his doctor, and then you realize that he's sort of in a way addicted to sort of rebuilding himself. And
Yeah.
it just to I didn't know it was a real person, a real story, till I started watching the film. And the fact that they show the real person towards the end of the film, maybe I thought they could have done away with that, because we know that already. You said it's based on a book by the person, so you tend to sort of take away from the integrity of your storytelling. Then
By breaking
it
that
becomes
fourth
like
wall.
by breaking that fourth wall. So, but yeah, I just, yeah, I think it was just a lot of factors came together which I didn't think would come together. When I saw the trailer, I have to admit that I was a little skeptical, as I mostly am when I see Abhishek Bachchan these days, because he's tried a lot of roles in the last 5 or 6 years. I have to give him credit for that. He's sort of just thrown everything against the wall. He's played a psychopath. He's played like various kind of eye-catching characters, and it's just never worked for me. But this is the one time it worked, when he's mostly bedridden and when he's mostly silent and he can't speak most of the time. Very affecting performance.
It's also one of his more secure performances, bereft
Yeah.
of all vanity, going through not just illness, but like stomach is always out, hair is shaved, then dadi is there, not there. There's a constant double chin throughout, double, triple, because he's like gaining
Yeah.
weight through his surgeries. So he's unhealthy throughout the film, he's unfit throughout the film. Even when he's fit, he's not a good guy. He's like, marketing is bullshit, yaar, becho jo bechna hai, whatever. He's like, his opening shot is him yelling at his subordinate about cheese pull. Like 30 times he says, cheese pull. I'm just stop fucking saying cheese pull. Because then from the first shot, like the film is telling you that he's not a very likable man. But then it's judging your judgment of this person. Like, how do you react to somebody you don't actually like when they get sick? What would you do? Would you let go of your previous judgments of that person because they are going through so much in their lives? Or would you let that color your relationship with them, which is what he's also exploring through the daughter. Ishita, parting thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I mean, 2 points. First, what you said, that we barely are given an idea of the person he was before it happened to him, which I thought was very smart.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we do get it in spots, like the fact that his wife never visits him kind of tells you how terrible a husband he
He was
must
not a
have
nice
been.
guy. And
Yeah,
Shujit Sarkar is putting him in a type. He's saying, you know this type of man. You know
Yeah.
this sort of individual who makes ads, thinks he's a great father, his wife never visits him, lives a single life with his friends. You know this guy. Now let's proceed. I don't want to waste any time
exactly.
telling you any of that.
Right. So that only, that he never goes to mind sympathy for this character. Also, like what we started with, that the story could have been about this man who was given 100 days to live, and he lived beyond that, and then the story could have been about a miracle. But the fact that the film absolutely is never searching for these big moments, we don't see him
Yes.
fall, we don't see his heart attack, we don't see the blood on his hanky when he's actually ill. We always see him survive that. He's when he's looking at his handkerchief, he's alive. When he's looking at his broken ribs, he's alive. So I felt like the fact that the film was not looking for a miracle kind of just shows that how the gift of the smallness, those small moments, basically, when you are unwell, when you are living with death constantly. So I felt that was such a nice way of making a story about someone who has survived.
And anyone who's been a caretaker for someone and observed that closely, that all three of us have had this experience, knows that the most extraordinary things happen in the most ordinary moments.
Yeah.
You know, and not from personal experience, but like if someone has a stroke, it's not after something extraordinary has happened that they will have a stroke, that you see in mainstream Hindi cinema ki heart attack ho gaya because buri khabar suni hai, wo bhi hota hai. But more often than not, it's in the ordinary moments that extraordinary things like this happen. If you had a fall, you're by yourself in the house, there's nothing extraordinary about it. You had a fall, you've passed out, and then until you wake up, you're like, oh, something extraordinary just happened. And I feel like to your point, the fact that he doesn't show you the fall, doesn't show you the blood, he doesn't show you anything like rousing music or any of that. It's just small moments and episodes in his life, which worked really. They hold each other very well. Abhishek Bachchan and Shujit Sarkar hold each other very well through the film. They're giving and taking in just the perfect balance, and it works excellently. On that note, we've spoken about now 4 things today, everybody. One, let me just go back to my slide. इसमें ना हमने sorry वो नहीं डाला, काली काली आंखें. हाँ राहुल, I apologize. मैं बना सकती थी जगह, but मैंने I just wanted to highlight.
No, but you chose Siddhant over.
No, but
Tahir.
but Tahir should be between Siddhant and Nehru. Between Siddhant and Chirag Vora.
I had to put both Siddhant and Chirag Vora. Chirag Vora because it is one of the best performances I have seen all year in Hindi entertainment, all year. I will be very upset and shocked if any web series awards don't give him Best Actor award this season. It's just, he's incredible. Chirag, if you're watching, well fucking done, man. You're so good. So good. So we spoke about All We Imagine Is Light for about 30 minutes. Then we spent the next 30 minutes talking about Freedom at Midnight. Then we spent about 10 minutes talking about Kaali Kaali Aankhein because, hey, I haven't watched the show. And then the next 20 minutes talking about I Want to Talk. Thank you so much, everybody who's watching. Please, before we end, I would request everybody who's watching us, click the thumbs up button under the video, because if you click the thumbs up button, then more people will get to watch the stream, and just sort of that's how YouTube works, I think. If you've not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. We're getting close to 150, but we're moving very, very slowly. That is the nature of the internet right now. People just don't want to subscribe. आपको free में आदत लग गई है ना लोगों को, तो अभी लोगों को free में ही चाहिए. पर मैं free में दे रही हूँ, but please subscribe to the channel. Thank you, Rahul, and thank you, Ishita, for joining me one more time. I miss you guys very much.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll meet each other soon.
Hopefully, you'll meet Rahul soon.
Oh, that too. Sorry. I'll meet
Oh
Rahul
yeah.
first.
No. What is Bombay? I just imagine light all the time. It's fine.
All we imagine is Kolkata. I'll
Sorry,
see you.
Rahul.
I'll meet
Yes.
you at Sundance, Ishita. Very excited.
Wait, me too.
Same
Yes.
here.
Gang. I'm gonna link all both their reviews of everything we spoke about in the description. So if anybody wants more context on where Rahul and Ishita were coming from for all of these shows and movies, please read their reviews. I will link them all below. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye bye.